Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Back after the summer break. It's been a busy couple of months around the world, and later in the programme we'll be trying to look at how the world has turned or changed. I'll be joined by former UN Secretary-General Boutros Ghali and by France's outstanding Finance Minister Christine Lagarde, plus a discussion of President Obama's first months and comic movie maker Armando Iannucci. But first, Afghanistan. This summer, Afghanistan staged what was only its second ever presidential election. The votes are still being counted. We won't know the official final result until the 17th of September. But it's already clear that the main challenger to President Hamid Karzai is the former Foreign Minister Abdullah Abdullah. He joins us now from our studio in Kabul. But first, here's what Hamid Karzai said earlier this year when I asked him if he was going to be running in these elections.
I would be running for election in the interest of this country. And if I find that my presence above politics would help have a better election and stability for Afghanistan, I would choose not to run.
That was President Karzai talking earlier this year. Turning now to the main challenger, to Abdullah Abdullah. First of all, I mean, would it have been a better election without President Karzai?
I think so. And in fact, it was a few months ago, 3 months ago, that he sent a message to me through a common friend that if I could give up on the idea of becoming a candidate. And I sent a message back to him and I said that there are two things that he could do for himself and for the country. And these are the only two things. First, if he didn't run, people will appreciate his mood, and then whatever has happened in the past few years will look minor, and he will leave his mark in the history. And the second thing was not to rig the election, not to try to rig the elections. Unfortunately, in both cases, my guess turned right, and he did both.
What do you expect to be the pattern now of the rest of the results? Are they going to show more and more rigging of the results, for instance?
I think in the coming days the provisional results will be out, but these are not accurate because those complaints have not been dealt with. And even in the results which they give up, there are a lot of flaws in the system, which shows that IEC, Independent Election Commission, has not been independent and has acted in favor of the incumbent. So once those complaints are dealt with, I think the results will be totally and absolutely different. I hope that this will take place.
And obviously, if the case was that Hamid Karzai has not got 50% and there is a repeat runoff, as it were, you will obviously participate in that.
Of course, certainly. My main aim is that fraud should be clear and the fraudulent results should be out, and whatever is the outcome, and I think most probably it will take us to a runoff, and that's fine. That's fine as far as the people of Afghanistan is concerned. They will learn that there was big attempt for massive fraud, state-engineered fraud, and that has been revealed, and that has been turned down, and then there is another opportunity. I think the fate of the people on the process will be restored, and we will going to have better turnout in the runoff.
And how can the runoff be less corrupt, as you would put it, than the first time, the election we've just had? How can the second election be any more accurate?
I think these are the concerns. These are our concerns, and I think there has to be some conditionalities, including, I think the chief of the election commission has to resign. I think there is no doubt. I think you ask the foreign observers, you ask the monitors, you ask the international community, everybody will tell you that in the commission he acts like the commander-in-chief of the commission, but at the same time he is working for the incumbent, unfortunately.
Have you had conversations with the United States envoy, Richard Holbrooke, envoy to Afghanistan and, of course, to Pakistan?
Yes, we had, I've been in contact with them. I'm in contact with U.S. representation here in Kabul. also when Ambassador Holbrooke visited Afghanistan, I met him. At that time, those were the early stages. There were the prospects of fraud at that time, because that was only one day after the elections. And then all those things, all those things which were anticipated, unfortunately came through. And as a result, today we see that massive fraud has taken place in the country, and the people of Afghanistan know it, the international community knows it, and hopefully there wouldn't be a cover-up by any chance, because I think this is the last chance for Afghanistan. And as a result of this, it will be decided whether democracy works in this country or it doesn't.
And how would an Afghanistan run by you as president be different in its policies and its effects and so on, compared with President Karzai's Afghanistan? How would your Afghanistan be different?
First of all, a golden opportunity provided for Afghanistan in world peace post-2001 turned into a disastrous situation. And I think others also have committed mistakes, made mistakes, but I can say single-handedly under the leadership of Mr. Karzai. I think we still have opportunities, but I think my focus will be on governance and security, zero tolerance as far as corruption is concerned, because this is one of the main issues. And I think I will make people's participation, people's government a real issue, rather than talking about it or just saying things about it. People of Afghanistan are not participants in the process. They did participate in the elections, but they saw with their own eyes that the outcome was stolen from them through stealing the votes, stuffing the boxes, and so on and so forth. In terms of governance, they are not participants. I would like to see the Constitution of Afghanistan amended, going for parliamentary system rather than presidential system, elected governors, elected mayors, and at the same time promotion of political parties, something which President Karzai doesn't believe in it. He thinks that that sort of Khan's type of attitude will work in this country, and he forgets that this 21st century Afghanistan and Afghanistan's people have a right to be participants in governance, security, developmental process, in all aspects of life.
When you talk about so much corruption and so on, and I'm sure President Karzai would say, you know, he wasn't aware of it, or something that was done in his name by people he didn't realize that they were being so corrupt or whatever. Do you fear that some of your supporters did the same thing and stuffed ballot boxes and so on?
No, I think what happened in the elections, I'm not talking about perhaps thousands and thousands of violations which has taken place in this country. Some of it might have been by my supporters. But what I'm talking about, it's about a state-engineered fraud. What do I mean by that? For example, there are dozens of sites which elections has not taken place in those sites. No single person has costed its votes. And then in the outcome, we see as if 10,000 in one place, 20,000 in another place have costed their votes. So what do I mean by that? I mean, there are areas where if we have 20,000 in the outcome, it shows that 20,000 have costed their vote one by one. There is another case, or many other cases, where 4 people sitting somewhere, we have documented that, videos are produced out of that and shown to the world, that 4 people sitting there and have voted like 20,000 for one person. This is the scale of the fraud that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about violations which in this country, with no tradition of elections as such, it might have taken place by many individuals. Some might belong to my supporters.
And what about the Taliban now? I mean, do you think the Taliban can be defeated or not? And do you want the foreign troops, the coalition troops, to stay and help in that? And if so, for how long?
I think Taliban cannot be defeated through the military efforts alone, especially when the government of Afghanistan has failed its own people, has failed to deliver to its own people in its own mission. So at the moment, the main responsibility is with the international forces. So the more troops in Afghanistan, more resources for Afghanistan, more support for Afghanistan has become a sort of substitute, as used as a substitute for the failures of a national leadership, national administration, the government of Afghanistan. In this way, I don't see a prospect for change in this country. I think only when there is a legitimate government in Afghanistan, and that takes me back to the issues of elections. So on top of corruption, on top of injustices, on top of absence of rule of law, insecurity, and many other things, you impose upon a people a legitimate rule. The people know that if the complaints are not dealt with, the outcome of the elections will be decided by fraud. So on top of that, you create such a situation and expect that Taliban will be defeated? I don't think so. I think only when people become real participants in their life, when the gap between the people and the government is bridged, and we are in the same boat and seen as in the same boat, we can reach out to our own people, all corners of Afghanistan, and then Taliban could be isolated before they are ready to come and talk to the government. More troops, unfortunately, it's needed at this stage. We should have been in a situation where 8 years down the road, we would have asked for lesser troops. This is not the case. This is another failure, but we have to face it. More troops can only help if the partnership or the partner, which is the Afghan side, the Afghan government, the Afghan society, is delivering on its own mission. And all of that depends on the outcome of the elections. Continuity of today's situation will make the people less hopeful and disappointed.
So in the first year of a Abdullah administration, Abdullah government, would you see yourself talking to and negotiating with the Taliban?
Certainly, I would like to reach out to those Taliban which are in the provinces and southern provinces and use the people, the elders, the influential people there, and find solutions, perhaps local solutions for local problems. But as far as the leadership of the Taliban is concerned, I think they are determined to continue. And they see themselves at this stage in a very strong position. I don't think that they are ready to talk, and I don't think that out of those talks we can achieve peace. We have to change the environment for the Taliban, that those who are willing to continue the fighting forever, they are isolated, they don't have a place in the society, while today they have established themselves in the society, unfortunately.
Thank you so much for being with us and with your very clear and trenchant words, and we look forward to talking again, and whatever happens, we also wish you peace in Afghanistan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sir David Frost.
Our thanks to Dr. Abdullah, and after the break, France's fascinating Finance Minister, Christine Lagarde.